Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. In today's episode, we are talking to an absolute rock star who is the creator and owner of the Bikini Athlete Network and Academy. She's a certified personal trainer, fitness nutrition specialist, and bodybuilding specialist who became a pro at her second show ever. Lacy Green, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Good. I'm so happy you're here and that we're connecting again, especially because last time we talked, it was so awesome. And so I have a lot planned actually. So what's something that you do or think about, because you know I have to ask everybody this, or a ritual you have right before you step on stage?
Yeah, so since I've only stepped on stage 3 times, I do actually have something that I do. I stop and I close my eyes and I listen to the sounds and I just have a moment where I thank God for that opportunity to glorify Him through what I'm doing. It's very humbling and I'm just thankful, just so thankful. It's wonderful. I don't think many girls stop and just listen. We're too worried and too afraid and too anxious. And I just stop and listen and get very calm. And I'm just so thankful for that moment.
I love that. And, after we connected a few months ago or however long ago it was, I was even more excited to bring you on just because we connected. I loved your energy and I wanted everyone here listening to get that experience as well. And I remember
Aw.
yeah, I'm serious. And when we first chatted, you told me a story about how you achieved your pro card. And to me, when I heard it, I was like, dang, that is so crazy. And I would love for you to tell everyone that story and how it really was only your moment.
Yeah. So um, it's unbelievable at times. So I nationals was my second competition ever. Actually, we just had the 1 year anniversary from Masters Nationals when I earned my pro card. And I remember going, so I was first call outs and I was in the middle and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I thought, how is this even happening? There's just no way. It just was unbelievable. Second show ever. So, I go off stage and we go through the afternoon and come back in for the night show. And I had that moment where we were getting ready to go on stage to get the awards. And the song Can't Stop, I think it's called Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake was
Mm-hmm.
my thing where I closed my eyes again and I just took in the moment and I was like, whatever this is, it is. And so we're on stage and they're calling out each girl and I'm still standing there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could happen. And then I get called out for second place. And I'm like, okay, it's not my turn. That's okay. This is awesome. I can't believe at my first national show, I got second place. And so I go off stage and I'm just so happy. I'm like ecstatic. And I'm like, okay, this was fine. And I had a moment where like, and I'm like, no, it's not my turn. This isn't the way it was, it's not time. So I go back and I get my phone out and I told my husband, I was like, okay, I guess we're coming back to North Americans. And he's like, no, you got your pro card. And I was like, no, I didn't. And he's like, yes, you did. I'm like, are we at the same show? Like, I got second place. And he's like, I am telling you, that girl that won earned her pro card earlier. You get it by default. And I didn't know the rules. And I'm like, no, I did not. And another girl came up to me backstage and she's like, I think you won your pro card. And I was like, I don't think so. So my husband's adamant. He's like, we are not leaving here until you talk to someone. And so all the girls are clearing out from backstage and it's almost empty back there. And I go up to one of the girls that was helping line everybody up and I asked her about it. She said, let me go check. And she brings back another guy and he has a little clipboard and he's like, yeah, you earned your pro card. And I'm standing there in this empty room with my husband and my friend. And that's how I found out I earned my pro card. There was no special announcement. There was no anything. And I thought, one of my things is I did go through this so quickly. I did earn a pro card so quickly. And I've always asked God to keep me humble. And I believe that is a great way to stay humble. I was definitely not at all glorified for that.
No, not at all. So, I mean, it's just an incredible story because so many girls like dream of finding out differently, I think, like getting that glorification or getting that, external validation where it's like new IFBB Bikini Pro, but
Yeah,
you didn't get to hear that. So when that happened, did your ego kind of come up and nudge you a bit and feel kind of upset that it happened that way?
not at all. I was just so honored. I couldn't believe it. Second show, I just was like, this is great. And I shared that moment in such an intimate way with my husband and my friend. Normally, you're on stage with a bunch of strangers,
Yeah.
with my friend and my husband finding out. And I just don't know that it could have went any better than that. That was perfect.
And like you said, you went pro really quickly. So did that impact your view on competing altogether, or how has that impacted your view on it?
So looking back now, I didn't realize how much I loved competing in the NPC. It is a little different, and I just really enjoyed the just being around those girls in the NPC. It was a little bit more relaxing for me, I think. Um,
Mm.
it just didn't need to happen so quickly. I often say, why do these girls hurry so much to earn their pro card? For what? Why? What's the end game there? Not many girls go on to Olympia or make any money competing, so why hurry? Just enjoy the journey. That it really hasn't changed a whole lot for me, except that I kind of miss the NPC a little bit.
And you've done a pro show, right?
Yes, I did. I ended up, so I had already planned on coming to North Americans,
Uh-huh.
and on the way home from Pittsburgh, I just wanted to get back on stage. I couldn't wait. And my husband's like, well, you could still go back. We can go back to Pittsburgh. We love Pittsburgh. And there's a pro show that goes with North Americans. And I'm like, let's do it. It's the Pittsburgh Masters Pro. I was like, let's do it. So we came back 6 weeks later for my pro debut, and I wasn't expecting to do great. I really wasn't there to do great or to prove anything. I just wanted to have fun. I just want to get on stage again.
Mm.
Mission accomplished. Though I have to say, here's a girl who won her first two shows, and now I got last place at my pro debut.
Mm. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's at least something I want to expand on with you. But before I do, I want to know, like, I always am curious when girls go straight from the amateur league into the pro league. How did you like change your posing? Because it's different. Now you got so much more time. How'd you come up with a whole
Yes.
new routine?
Oh my goodness, that was the undoing of me. I think that was the hardest thing. I was not ready. It's one thing to pose for 10 seconds. 30 seconds is a whole new ball game. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't prepared. I did have a posing coach and he's so good, but I wasn't ready. I didn't have enough time to practice that. And we threw in a new pose I had never done before. And that might not have been the wisest decision because I just wasn't prepared. I wasn't comfortable on stage at all. And man, it shows. It shows when you're not ready. So I think the posing was the hardest part for me. But I'll tell you what, that experience taught me something. I have been posing this entire year.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's so crazy because there's girls who like in the amateur league, like they qualify for nationals and think they're ready for nationals, which isn't always the case. And I think it's similar sometimes in the pro league. A girl wins her pro card and is like, now I'm a pro. I'm going to go step on stage next weekend at the most recent or the most upcoming pro show. It's like, well, how long do you think those other girls have been doing their posing routine? Like your body doesn't, it's not just about your body. It's about that whole presentation and what you're bringing on the stage and the energy you're giving off and the way that you're presenting yourself and the entertainment. There's so much more entertainment value, I think,
Yes.
pro league, especially now. Like, people are looking to be, not that it wasn't before, but I mean, bikini seems to be becoming more entertaining, more flair, more sass, more personal expression. So now you are practicing a lot more. So does that mean you're planning on competing soon?
I am 9.5 weeks out from my next.
Woo!
So excited. I am
Wow.
doing the inaugural 2019 Ben Weider Natural Pro in Canada.
I know you're not the only one that I've talked to who's doing that. So that's pretty sweet.
Yes, I'm excited.
Oh, that's gonna be cool. I can't believe it. 9.5 weeks, and by the time this comes out, you're gonna be like halfway through it. So that's pretty sweet. And okay, so of course, something I mentioned in your introduction is that you are the creator and owner of something that is going to be really, really amazing for bikini competitors. And I'm super honored to be featured as a go-to coach in your academy. By the way, I do want to recognize
Aw.
you for that and say thank you. It means a lot to me, especially because you've allowed me to see the back end. You've allowed me to go in there and see what's going on. So I feel honored to be represented in there. And now, of course, bring that platform here to the show as well and talk about what that is. So for those of you who don't know, Lacy has this amazing network for bikini competitors, the Bikini Athlete Network and Academy. And I'm going to let her expand on it. Of course, I'm going to ask her questions so you guys get an idea of what it is. But I get to go in there, and she's put me on her partner list because she has a ton of awesome partners in there for, suits and tanning and all sorts of things. And I get to be there and do the inner work side of things and the competing, especially like post show and getting ready. It's just cool that I've been a referral, and I really appreciate that. And I want you to share with everyone, like, when you launched it, what made you realize it was so important to do it, and what is it exactly?
Okay, let's start with the launch. So I did a beta launch on June 1st. And basically, I just wanted to get a few girls in there to test everything, to make sure that I heard what they wanted to have. It's all about the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I've got girls in their beta testing right now, not a bunch, just a few. And I get feedback from them, and they're helping me guide everything, basically what they want. And that's part of you being included. Post show issues are huge, and there's not a lot of information or support out there. And so you are something that's needed in there. So that's really exciting for me
Thank you.
too. Yeah, like you are needed. So the launch, the actual launch is September 1st.
So 5 days ago.
Yes. So that's exciting. And so basically why I created, I have to tell you first, I changed the name since I talked to you. It's a little different.
Okay.
It's called Bikini Competition Academy. And I changed it just to make it more specific of what it is.
Yay.
It's definitely, yeah, it's still a network, but I really wanted to enhance the fact that it's an academy because some people get confused and think it's coaching, and it's not.
Mm.
It is not a coaching program. I do recommend coaches in there, but it is not a coaching program. It is an academy for learning. And I saw a need for that when I was learning myself. When I first started, when I said, okay, I'm going to compete in a show, I was hungry for information. I was looking everywhere. I wanted to know every little piece of everything. I wanted to understand how the shows operated. I wanted to understand the judging and the scoring. I wanted to know the history of the bikini division in bodybuilding. What do you do for hair, nails, shoes? I get so many questions about shoes. And so I cover all of that in the academy. I wanted a place where every question a bikini competitor had or an aspiring bikini competitor had could be answered. And it's there in the academy. And if something new comes up that I don't have in there yet, I get it in there because I want to serve these athletes to make their life a little bit easier.
I love that mission because there's so many girls. I know there's girls listening who are not competing yet but are aspiring to. They don't know what to expect. I also know there's a lot of girls competing who will come back from a show and be like, I had no idea the stage was so long, or I had no idea you entered on this side. I've been practicing my posing from this way. So I think what you're doing is giving girls an opportunity to get the inside scoop at a very affordable investment. And it's a one-stop shop, which is really, really cool. And I know that, for the launch of this, there's a lot of topics that you are now learning to cover or knowing you need to cover based on the beta testers' feedback. But can you share with us what are some of the topics that you've covered outside of, let's say, like the nails and the shoes and the bikinis and the judging and the scoring? Like, what else? Like, give us more so we can kind of get an inside scoop.
Yeah. So one of my favorite topics, well, there's two that I really like, that I just don't think that we get too excited about the shoes and the hair and the suit and stuff. We don't think about, the first thing is find your why. I have a whole course in there about finding your why. I think it's so important if you're going to compete to have a strong why, because prep is hard. And once you get into it, you don't want to quit. But if you don't have a strong enough why, it's very hard to continue. And so I have a whole worksheet in there and a little thing that you can write on that. There's a lot of downloadables in the academy, but this is one where you can cut it out, write your why on it, and hang it up and look at it, because it's going to be hard days. And so that's one of the things that might be a little unexpected in the academy, is that we do have a discussion about why you should come up with your reason. Why are you doing this?
I love
Another
that.
one. Yeah, that's an important thing to address. And then I had another one on my mind.
Yeah.
Out of my mind. Finding your why was the one. Oh yeah, count the cost. So that's one. And I even had a girl this morning. We have a Facebook group of all the girls, and I guess since I mentioned it, I'll say real quick, you can find it on Facebook if you just type in at Bikini Academy in the search. One of the girls in there today responded to a video that I made about the cost. And she said, I never considered the total cost, and now I'm in trouble because I didn't realize how much it costs. So there's a downloadable in the academy of all the things that could be part of the cost of a show. Some things won't always apply. Like, for instance, you can buy a suit one time and wear it again and again and again. If it fits your body, you don't need to get a new suit all the time. Just keep the same suit. So there's some costs that you don't have every time, and then there's other costs that you do have every time, like hair or getting your makeup done. So it lists it out, and then I put little notes beside it. And so I used this downloadable, when I was preparing myself to decide if I was going to go to Canada for the Ben Weider Natural Pro. I filled it out myself, and I saw what it would cost, the estimate. And it's just a good way of making that decision. Am I ready to compete?
Wow. Yeah, you bring up some really great points. And I really want to go into each of them because might as well bring it here. And I think you have a lot of really great value to share, especially because you've been both an amateur and a pro. And from an amateur's perspective, I can see how those costs add up when you need to constantly do shows after shows after shows after shows, especially if you're really trying to fight for that pro card. But on the other hand, pros have to invest a lot too, especially now. Of course, I don't believe that there's a show registration fee, right?
Some do have one. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So I guess the thing is, though, that there's a lot of things that still remain the same. And what are some things that you recommend girls do to budget for a show or to be prepared, especially those who don't know much about the sport? Like when you start not knowing, you're just kind of like, I'm going to do a show. You're not going, I'm going to do a show. How much does it cost? You're going like, I'm going to do a show. So what are some questions or things you think girls should research or look into before committing to that?
Well, one of the big decisions right off the bat, and we cover this in the academy, is are you going to get a coach or not? That's a big cost, and you can do it uncoached. Lots of girls do. You might just take longer to achieve what you're trying to achieve because you're going to learn on your own. I think having a coach saves you a lot of time and stress.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we cover in the academy, the pros and cons of coaching and just trying to help make a decision and, help these girls understand that that's probably your first decision as
Absolutely.
a coach. And then there's the time frame that has to be considered. And while you're in that time frame where you're building muscle mass, because you do need a good foundation of muscle before you jump into a show, it's never wise to just diet down and say, well, I got skinny, so I'm going to do a show.
Mm.
There does need to be a time frame there where you do build muscle mass. So while that happens, it's good to take some of these costs and break them down and understand that you can do a little at a time or save a little at a time.
And mhm.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you mentioned not always having to buy a new suit for every show. What are some other ways girls can save without sacrificing quality?
You can rent suits. That's one thing that can be done. Some girls have made their own suits. It You can learn to do anything on your own. There's so much help out there with YouTube and stuff. I think if a girl really put the time into making her own suit, she could have a nice suit. But you can rent them. There are used suits all over the place that you can get from different websites where they're maybe not as expensive. And if you think about it, a lot of these girls might have only competed one time that are selling a suit, so it's not in bad condition.
Mm-hmm.
Out competing maybe wasn't for them. So that's what
Absolutely.
you do.
Especially as a first-time competitor, like, you don't need to go crazy. I always
Mm-mm.
feel like, honestly, just go through hashtag. This is what I did anyway. I went through hashtags on Instagram and I just like typed in like bikini suit for sale, comp suit for sale, competition suit for sale, like literally searched hashtags. And my first suit was definitely a posing suit, which I wasn't educated enough to know that at the time, but it didn't really matter because I got the experience. And at your first show, you can wear a bikini that's not perfect and you can still do really, really well if everything else is on point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I believe Brina Martinez had that experience. So, I mean, it's not impossible. And the other thing that you brought up was knowing your why. And it's so cliche, but it is important. And I want to know like your take on it. Like, why do you think it's necessary to have that knowledge and have it to refer to as well, because you give people a worksheet?
Right. So first thing, I want to come back to something really quickly.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the suits, I want all these bikini girls to know that your suit is never going to be what makes you win or lose. It's your physique. The judges don't care about your suit. If they remember your suit, that's a problem. They should be looking at your body, not your suit. So I don't want girls to think they have to freak out about getting a blinged up $800 suit. That is not the case at all. Get a suit that fits your body and then get your physique looking good. So that's all I want to say about that.
Nice.
But okay, so what was the other question? Oh, about finding your why.
Yes.
Well, I think some of what I say comes from the fact that I'm 41. And so I've lived a long life, and I understand that if we don't have a strong background for anything that we do, um, it's going to be very hard to follow through with it. So a lot of girls find that their why is to inspire others. And that was kind of my why. Um, there was a day in the gym when I had started changing my physique and I had not decided yet to compete. I was right there on the edge, and I looked in I like caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror as I turned, and I had a different shape, and it's like it suddenly I noticed it, and I just got tear-filled eyes. I was so thankful, and I thought, wait, you can literally change the shape of your body by lifting weights. And
Mm.
I knew in that moment that I wanted to be an inspiration, particularly for women who didn't believe in themselves and older women, because I was 39 at the time, almost 40. And I thought, oh, there's no way I could, be a competitive bodybuilder. There's no way. And here I am today. And so I wanted to really be that voice that said, yes, you can do this, you can do this. So that was kind of my why, was to inspire others to take that chance.
I love that. I love it. And I kind of wanted to do something fun with you, because that is such a good example of how the why can go so much deeper than surface level, and how we have that power to really reflect and understand where is this desire coming from. So something fun I wanted to do with you was each of us kind of share like one thing or a question people could ask themselves to understand or discover their why. So, what is one question you would recommend people listening to ask themselves to, again, understand or discover their why?
I think for me, the most important question is what is this going to do for someone else?
Mm.
What is this decision going to do for someone else? That's the big one for me because I just don't see any value in doing anything if it's not going to help someone else.
So, you are definitely someone who is motivated by like helping others a lot and making an
Yeah.
impact. So, okay, I'll share something. Similar to you, I like, okay, so something I do with clients is I'll take them through this exercise, which is like I call it core soul codes. And essentially, like, it's all about taking that understanding because like you said, there's got to be something deeper. So it's about going deeper and going, okay, like what is the real driver to all things in your life? So I would encourage everyone listening to really consider the things that matter most to you in your life, and then ask yourself, how does achieving this goal or going after this goal align with what matters to me most in life? So for someone like Lacy, she really cares about making an impact and helping people. Maybe someone else listening goes, well, I really care about having freedom, and giving myself an opportunity to pursue a goal like this gives me the freedom to know I'm very much so capable of things I didn't even realize. So you might kind of peel back the layers over and over again and just ask yourself constantly, does this bring me closer to or further away from my values? How does this goal do that? I think that that's a really good way to kind of understand, like, if it's something you should even pursue at all, or if it's something that you can find deeper worth in pursuing rather than, I'm going to do a bikini comp to change my body, which isn't always
Right.
the best motivation.
Right.
um,
Right.
and I know something else that you cover is like what you said, the history of competing. And was this because you kind of went in a little blind before being motivated to earn your pro card? Or like, why do you think it's important for girls to know the history behind it before actually competing?
I think the history is important because you have to love the sport to do well in it. I really think you have to love the sport. And part of loving the sport is understanding the history and appreciating the history and appreciating how much things have changed since the beginning, and just kind of having a little bit of knowledge of that. It's just about really knowing the sport.
I think that's a great idea. I really love that because even like movies on Netflix, all the Generation Iron movies, for example, is like when you watch those and you feel like connected to it, or you feel like I see myself in some of them, or I get the sport beyond the physical, display of our bodies, it can bring us closer to that. It can bring us a closer connection to that goal, I should say. And I think for the same
Yeah,
reasons you said, like, the more you
it's
love it,
that.
the more successful.
Yeah, and it's that like-mindedness. We all crave that like-mindedness in the sport because we aren't like everybody around us.
Mm.
So that like-mindedness, I think, is comforting.
Yeah, it's a community. It's camaraderie among other people who, whether, like, I have friends like you, for example, you're not anywhere near me on the map, yet we're connected, and it's so
Yeah,
so awesome. And I have lots of people on Instagram who I've become, well, not lots of them, but there's a lot of good amazing people who have connected with on Instagram or through social media because of this sport. And we have differences, but we connect because of it. And I know that it's just super rewarding to have that. And as even being on a team, that's super rewarding as well. So I know what you're creating is a community. So how, with your experience, how do you make the most of the relationships you build on show day or among other competitors?
oh, I love that question. I listen. I want to know their stories. I met one of my closest friends at Masters Nationals last year. She and I were in the same class. We competed against each other. And before we went on stage, I just asked her about her life. I said, "What brought you here? Like, tell me your story." And she had me teary eyed before I went on stage because she had overcome so many obstacles. She had lost so much weight, and it was just incredible to hear her story. And I was so moved by her. And I thought, this is what I love about competing. These people and their stories. I mean, everybody's an overcomer of something. And it's beautiful when they share their heart with you and you get to hear what they overcome.
I love that. That's one of the things I love most about doing this is I get to hear those types of stories. What's something that you've overcome?
I have to think about that. I think that for me, overcoming my own like thought process about being so old and not good enough to do this. And I had really, really low self esteem when I started my journey. And one of the guys in the gym, he was an older guy. He just, I really looked up to him. He had a lot of wisdom. And he said to me one day, I was kind of sharing my dreams with him. And this is before I had really decided I was going to compete, but he had been watching me working out a lot. And he said, "You just don't know who you are yet." And that really struck me. I was 39 years old and I thought, he's right. And I don't believe in myself enough. And that very day, I kept saying, why me? Why me? Why would I be able to do this? And I was like, no, I'm going to change that. And I'm going to say, why not me? And that changed everything. So I think overcoming my own doubt in myself and just turning it around and saying, why not me, was the game changer.
Mm, I feel that. I feel that a lot. I know there's a lot of people who go, I think I'm too old. I think it's too late. I've never done anything like this before. None of my friends get it. So when those thoughts come up, what did you do to start overcoming them?
I had to start really believing in myself. And it kind of got to the point where I was like, well, other people do this and they're just people like me.
Mhm.
Why couldn't I do this if they could? And there was a lady that kind of changed everything for me. I was really right on the edge of deciding. I still was kind of holding back a little. And she was in her 70s and she was at the gym and she came up to me one day and she said, "I see you working so hard. What are you working for? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm thinking about competing in a bikini competition." And she said, "Why are you just thinking about it? Why don't you do it?" And I shared with her some of my fears. I said, I'm old and I'm a mom. I have kids and, I just don't feel like I would do very well. And she said, take some advice from a wise old woman. She said, don't not do something out of fear. She said, give it a try. And that way, at least you won't look back and regret that you didn't try it. She said, if you don't like it, you don't ever have to do it again. But if you like it, keep doing it. But if you don't try it, you'll never know. And
Mm.
I really like internalized that. And I was like, you know what? She is much older than me. She obviously has way more wisdom than I do. I don't want to suffer the pain of regret. Let's give it a shot. And then, crazy enough,
Oh my gosh. That is so great. Like those are the moments. Honestly, this is one of my big beliefs and I know people who follow me can see this, but like literally looking back on moments like that and going, "Oh my gosh." Like that was the moment. That was the moment I needed. That's what allowed me to go, "Okay, I'm gonna do it." Or I internalized it enough. That was the lesson. And now look, like you're creating an empire. You're creating something bigger for a sport that previously you were like, I don't know if I can. I'm too
right?
old. I'm this, I'm that. And now it's like become your career. You've literally, I mean, those are just things that I'm like, wow, there's a reason you chose to work out at that gym. There's a reason you were there on that day. There's a reason why she decided to come up to, like, I don't know. I could go down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole, but it's just crazy to me.
I totally agree. It was all laid out before me, and I just had to be obedient and follow through with it.
Yeah, you were actually open to it, which is the best part. You didn't go, "Oh, this old annoying lady came up to me in the gym and told me I should do this." And blah blah blah. It was more
Right.
like, maybe she's got something good to say. And you did mention that you're a mom. You're a busy mom for sure. So I think again, a lot of our listeners can relate to that. So what does a usual day look like for you, especially now that you're in prep?
Oh yeah. So, and it's crazy enough. My husband is like gone for like every time I'm in prep, it seems like he's gone. He, when I was prepping for my first show, he was at the FBI National Academy as a police officer. And so he missed that entire prep. And now he is away he's also in the Army and he's away for the military right now for 8 weeks.
Wow.
Prep is even harder because I have to do all the things that like after we're done, I'm mowing the yard. I'm like, well, that's a way to get my steps in. But my kids are so supportive. I also coach cross country. So I'm always busy with something. So it just makes it hard to fit things in. I'm very structured. I have a very structured, scheduled life.
So you said your kids are definitely supportive. How do they feel about competing? Like, how did their lives or their habits or the way you parent them change when you got into it?
Not so much. I still bake them cookies every time they ask, and even when I bake cookies like crazy. That's something I'm kind of known for. Anybody who follows me on Instagram sees pictures of my cookies constantly.
I see them all the time. I'm like, what is she doing? Why aren't those in the mail? I'm just kidding.
I do love to bake, and it's funny. It helps me in prep. It's almost annoying to my friends at this point because I get such satisfaction from them eating my baked goods. And I'm like, tell me everything about it. Tell me about the texture. What does it taste like? What does that feel like when you're chewing it? Like,
Oh my God. They're like,
because
let
I
me eat
can't
the
eat it.
damn cookie.
Yeah, that's what they're like. My husband's like, seriously. He's like, I don't even know how to put into words what you're asking me to.
You're one of those.
Yes.
You're a vicarious cookie eater. Oh,
Yes.
that's hilarious. I've never been like that. I'm like, well, also I think it's because I like absolutely hate hearing other people eat. I don't like watching it. I like don't like that's one of my pet peeves. But like I'll watch I don't know that I would still do it now because a lot of things have changed, but watching like cooking shows or Food Network stuff and like guys grocery games and I'd be like, oh, this is awesome. Like, how did you even make mac and cheese from that? It's like the dumbest stuff. But I get it. I definitely get it. And that's great that you still are present for them in the way that they need you to be. And I'm always fascinated by women who compete and have kids because like something that I think about is like when I become a mom, I really want to do a great job of displaying love of body, love of fitness, love of health, but also love of like the freedom in all of it. So how do you maintain and display that love of fitness and competing with the acceptance of your body and of balance in your life to them?
Well, they see it's a lifestyle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when mom's in prep, life looks just a little different, but it's not really much different because I really do live as a lifestyle. Not nothing goes before them though. So I do have like a home gym at my house. It's just I have everything I need in this gym. And so like right now, for instance, one of my sons is at camp, and
Mm-hmm.
so he's not here, and so I'm with my youngest, and I can't just leave him to go to the gym. So I just go work out in our home gym, and he comes out, and we hang out, and I teach them things. And my other son is a cross country runner and a pole vaulter, and so we work together in the gym at home on building him up, his physique for those sports, which is kind of neat. And my boys have learned the discipline uh, of preparing for a goal, setting a goal, and the discipline of achieving that goal. And I think that's what they've learned from me is that we have a goal and we know there are disciplines required to achieve that goal. And my boys are really good about that because they've watched me do it, these shows, and then living it as a lifestyle.
I love that. What a great way to put it. I think that is awesome. And are you the cross country running coach where he trains cross country? How did you get into being a coach for that?
Life is so funny because before I became a competitor, I was a respiratory therapist for 15 years. And
I was
now,
going to ask you what you did before.
yeah, I was a respiratory therapist for 15 years. And so I left that job, became certified personal trainer, and then certified specialist in fitness nutrition. And I'm almost done with my bodybuilding certification. And then I just saw an opportunity to coach cross country, and I'm also the track and field coach, but not for my son's school, for a different school, but they're not rivals, so that's good.
That's awesome. That
But
is
I
so
love
cool.
kids, and so I do see a lot of benefit with working with kids, and particularly I bring a whole new thing to the table for them. I address nutrition a lot with them, and they're not used to that. Like most sporting events in high school, you don't address nutrition at length like I do. So I'm teaching these kids about how to eat before running and how to eat after running and why. And that's the stuff that really gets me excited, is just teaching these kids about nutrition.
Oh, that is seriously so important. I remember in high school, one of our teammates' moms was a registered dietitian, and I wanted to be one at the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, what's she going to say? This is so cool. And I was like already pretty aware of it because I was so into it. But I remember when she came and she spoke to us and told us things, it kind of changed my mindset on food a little bit because, well, I didn't really listen because my relationship with food was really unhealthy anyway. But she was like, yeah, like it would actually not be bad to have a PB&J before like you train, like have it earlier in the day. And I was like, huh, like I wonder why. And she kind of would explain it. But to me, I was like, no, you can only eat like sweet potatoes and chicken. And honestly, like that was my mindset. And luckily I've come a long way from that. But I think it's really cool that you're going into nutrition with people and with the kids, especially because I think now it's become so accessible, especially at schools, for kids to just make decisions that maybe are not so conscious. They're more just like, this is what we're serving, this is what you have available, or this is what mom and dad packed. Or they don't pack lunch because mom and dad doesn't pack it anymore. You know, at least that's what I would notice when I was going to school. So, what are some of the things that you teach them?
The biggest one is water. These kids do not drink enough water.
Great point. Yeah, you're right.
So I have goals for them. Actually, part of our goal setting is for my team is a water goal that they have to when did they start drinking, especially on, well, any day we're doing practice or running for a race. I want to know how much water did you drink, and they have to mark it on their water bottles. And then I educate them about why their bodies need water to function at their best when they're running, and why their bodies need it afterwards. And it's even injury prevention, really, which I'm really big into as well. So that was the biggest one, surprisingly, was, I mean, the kids love to eat, and most of them do it, they pretty much had it spot on, but the water was so surprising to me.
Wow. Yeah, I could see that. I remember in high school, it was like, made not made fun of, but I was like given looks and kind of like people would say things just because I'd carry around like a gallon jug of water with me everywhere. But like I'm glad that I did, and it made me feel better. I performed better in volleyball and all these different things, and I was lifting and all these other things were going on. So I think it's so cool that you are addressing that. I would actually um like to know, because you're doing all these different things, you're taking care of your kids, you're a coach, you're also coaching competitors for the academy. What do you do to make sure that you're prioritizing yourself, like your needs and your goals?
So Sundays, I don't do anything. Sundays are my day of doing nothing but going to church and whatever comes up that day. I don't make a schedule on Sundays at all. It's just my day to do whatever. And there are some days that, if I'm extra tired, I just sleep in. I just say, okay, other things might not get done today, but I'm going to sleep today. So I just really like to kind of go with the flow and listen to my body, and um, try not to get too worked up about anything. And then, of course, the priorities, um, being in prep, I do try to be a little bit more strict about getting my workouts done, definitely the cardio, but I don't freak out if something comes up and I can't get it done. It falls in a certain line of the priorities.
Got it. And after like the time you took off, now you're getting ready to step on stage again, like you said. So have you noticed any major benefits for your body or for life and relationships from taking that time off?
Yes, absolutely. I just feel so much more relaxed. Um, I I really just my off season. I never like to call it off season. I like to call it improvement season. I don't think bodybuilders have an off season.
It's definitely a lifestyle. I would agree
It
with you.
is. It is. I during my time though off between shows, I stayed within 10 pounds of my stage weight the whole time, and
Wow.
that served me beautifully for this prep, which makes me so happy. It's been so easy. Um, I can't complain. It's about the best. It is the best prep I've ever had. When I prepped for nationals, I did a 10-week prep, and I had 22 pounds to lose.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, it was a nightmare. I did cardio twice a day for 40 minutes, and it was hard. It was very hard. Obviously, it was worth it because I earned my pro card, but I worked very hard for that. Definitely a lot of tears and a lot of why am I doing this? Is this worth it? But this time around, it's just like I just can't be more pleased with this prep.
So when you were preparing for nationals and you had 22 pounds to lose, how long was that after your show prior?
8 months.
Oh, okay. So you had a healthy off season even then as well.
Yep. Yep. I had 8 months in between those two shows.
Okay, got it. So what did you focus on in your off season, this most recent one, to make sure that now you're coming into a very competitive pro circuit? So what had your focus been?
So I definitely focused a lot on posing. That was a big one for me because I knew I blew it at my pro debut with the posing. Lot of work on my delts. Lot of work on my glute hamstring tie-in. I tend to carry all my fat in the back of my legs.
Join the party.
Yeah, it's like the last thing that leans out. And so I was like, by golly, I'm going to make those hamstrings pop if that fat won't go away. You'll still see them, babies. So really hard. Just lots of leg days, just the glutes, the hamstrings, and working those delts. And the lats too. Like I worked on my lats quite a bit. I did my little pull-up challenge just to because I hated pull-ups. I'm like, well, I don't like them, so I'm going to tackle them. A lot of pull-ups.
That's awesome. And so you said this prep has been going really, really smoothly and really well. So are you doing anything new or different opposed to other ones?
Oh yes.
What's new?
This time I'm counting macros.
Okay.
And it is delightful. I did meal plans for the other preps, and this one with the macros is a game changer.
Oh, really? How so?
I didn't realize how much I missed having a variety of food. When I
Mm,
meal plan, the philosophy of the coach at the time was to eat the same exact thing every single day, all of prep. And I didn't realize how miserable I was until after the show. Well, after those shows, I was like, I am messed
mm,
up mentally because I could not grasp the idea of eating anything that was outside of that plan.
totally.
It meant, and this is probably something that you've dealt with girls before. I probably like desperately needed you back then because I had a really unhealthy relationship with food at that point. Um, just because I just could not comprehend feeling okay with eating something that wasn't on a meal plan.
Mm.
And then macros came along, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take a chance. And I had to kind of see the evidence. I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a couple weeks and see what happens to my body. And I started feeling good. And I
Nice.
and I was like, oh, I can eat this. It works in macros. And then one day I got really daring, and I was like, I'm putting a candy bar on this. And I put a candy bar, and I was like, oh my gosh, I made it fit my macros. And I didn't have that guilt feeling that I was carrying for so long if I ate something that was not on my meal plan.
Yeah, totally.
Macros is, I think counting macros is healthy mentally compared to a meal plan.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely benefits, pros and cons to each. And I know for me, I love following a meal plan, but sometimes in my improvement season, I just go by a macros, or I follow mostly my meal plan. And then if I want to replace something, it's macros. Um, but I think you bring up a really great point where a lot of girls are afraid to eat something out of the norm, out of what they think they're supposed to or what they usually eat. But what's interesting is guilt is really just a reaction to something that's out of alignment with our identity. So if your identity was, oh, I can only follow this meal plan, well, of course, you're going to feel guilty if you don't. So now you're in this identity of, well, I can just track my macros and I can literally have whatever I want as long as it fits in there. And of course, aligns with your goals. And then, of course, the guilt goes away because you've given yourself that permission. So I think that's an underlying thing. If there are girls listening who experience guilt, I would really urge you to consider how you're identifying and also what kinds of standards and rules you're giving yourself that might then be out of alignment with the actions you're taking, or the actions you're taking are out of alignment with, because that's going to be a huge I guess, telling sign of what you need to change, or maybe at least give you assurance that, oh, well, that's where it's coming from, so I can move forward from there. So, um, did you ever think you would follow something like macros?
No, because the meal plans were working. I mean, I was getting the results I wanted from the meal plans, and I was content with them at the time until, after the shows. And then in the off season, I would find myself, I would be on a meal plan, but I would have binging moments where I would be like, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of peanut butter, even though it's not on my plan. And the next thing I know, half the jar's gone. And I'm horrified because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much fat in this. So I know there's tons of calories. And just then mentally, I would be beating myself up after that. And now I just eat the peanut butter. I'm like, I eat the peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
I know it's the best.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that it's cool because everyone needs to find what works for them and what helps them. You've also grown a lot mentally, and you've established deeper reasons for what you do, which I think helps a lot. And, there's preferences. Some people will love it. Some people will hate macros. Some people will hate meal plans. And there's got to be a time where you learn about your body regardless. And so you learned and now you're applying it differently. And that's really, really cool.
I'm glad that you said that because that's always something I tell all my new bikini girls that I meet. Um, don't do something just because someone else does it, another competitor does it. Your body was created individually. And so you're going to be individual in the way you approach things, in the way that you tolerate things, and the way you handle things. So don't compare to someone else and think that you have to do what they're doing. Find your own way that suits you the best.
Yeah, that's an important lesson, isn't it? It's so easy to compare now, too. It's so easy to be
Oh,
like,
you know it.
oh, well, she's doing macros, so I should. Or, oh, well, she was able to put in like a whole bagel into her meal plan, and I've not had a bagel in years. So therefore, I'm not as successful, or she's not as successful, or
Right.
um well, she does fasted cardio, I don't do fasted, should I be doing it? Like, those are the types of things that are easy to start getting into, especially because we're just seeing it all the time around us. Is there anything specific you've done to become more comfortable with your decisions and your approach?
Yeah, I just realized that comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm.
And if you're comparing anytime, like I used to do this with looking for other competitors that are competing in the same show as me. Um, I'm looking at their Instagrams. I'm going, oh, I'm not going to this show. I am never going to do this good. I don't look that good. And it's like, no, comparison is the thief of joy. And I want to have fun. And when this isn't fun anymore, I can't do it. So let's find some joy in this and not compare and just understand that my journey is my journey and another girl's journey is her journey and my approach is mine. And so I do have to mentally check myself with that all the time. It never just goes away, but I have to take control of it and say, okay, comparison is the thief of joy, and I'm going to have joy today.
Mm. That's really powerful. I really like that a lot, and it's true. So Something that I always like to hear from the girls who come on here is their best advice. So I want to know, what is your best advice for competitors who are going after their pro card, and also what is your best advice for those who have not competed yet but are thinking about competing?
So for the girls that are looking for their pro card, my best advice is take your time, enjoy the journey. Sometimes we make a target out of our goal, and that's all we can see. And you're going to be robbed of the fun times and the joy in the journey. Like it's not the end game. Live it in the moment. That day in the gym when you just don't feel like going and you get there and you crush your workout, that's your life. Not that moment that you get that pro card. And what? What was the other one?
What about advice for people who haven't competed yet but are thinking about it?
Find your why and go to a show and watch the whole thing. Watch the prejudging in the morning and watch the night show. Watch the finals and find your why. That's my advice.
I love that a lot. So, of course, now it's been 5 days since you've launched it, which is super exciting. But I want people to be able to also connect with you and follow you and hang out with you and talk to you, because you guys listening, seriously, Lacy is so sweet. And if you, I mean, you speak for yourself, but I would just say, I feel like you're the type of person who, if someone needed something, you'd be like, I can help you.
Yes, that's what I live for. That's what gets my heart just beating fast with excitement, is when I can help someone. So yes.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it. So could you let everybody know where they can find and connect with you?
Yes. So my Instagram is kind of long. It's Lacy_Green, just like the color, underscore IFBB_pro. And my name is spelled Lacy. There's no E in that. Obviously, you can go to www.bikinicompetitionacademy.com if you want to check out the academy. We would love to have you. That's where I can interact the most with my girls. I take very special time in really interacting. There's a community within there that's very similar to Facebook, but it's private to the group. And I like to spend time in there and really get to know the girls. Like, I really want to get to know them. And then on Facebook, we have a group at Bikini Academy. You can always find me on Facebook too and be my friend. I always friend bikini competitors, always. Because your story, I want to know your journey. Tell me what you've overcome. Tell me what you're trying to overcome. I want to hear it all.
You're so genuine. I love that about you. Seriously.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course. So, to everyone listening, I'm going to make sure all those links are in the show notes page as usual. That's celestial.fit/podcast. We are, how far away are we? We are about a month and 1 week away from my live bikini mastermind event in San Diego, October 12th. So I'm very excited. I'm recording this far in advance, so the spots might be taken, but it's worth checking the page just in case. If you see the link there, go ahead and reserve your seat. Seats are free. I'm so happy about it. I am limiting it to around 10 people. At least that's the goal anyway. So I'm super, super excited to meet everyone. We are going to go into all things inner work. It is going to be so amazing to connect with all of you. And I'm just so excited. It's going to be a beautiful time in a wonderful, wonderful space that we're going to create together. So if you want more info about that, you can always reach out to me, or of course, just check the site. I'm going to make sure it's in the show notes page as well. Lacy, thank you again so much for your time and coming on here and sharing so much and giving us great insight.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome, of course. And with all that being said, I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Make it awesome.